What's up, everybody? I'm Maran, and this is the 2022 Ford F-150 Lightning. So about the all-electric Lightning. So it's based on the regular F-150, and so that's why many of the body panels are the same. The truck bed in the back's the same. Everything is really a carryover from the regular F-150, aside from them swapping in the battery pack and the electric motors and an independent rear suspension and a few other little things. But I think that they've nicely differentiated from an F-150 while still making it look, like it is a normal, typical truck and not too crazy. So I think it really blends in nicely. But up front there, you can see they improved the aerodynamics by smoothing out that front end, and you have the new headlight design there to go along with that new grille. And like other versions of the F-150, there's various trims here for the Lightning, and so they will give you slightly different looks depending on which one you go with. This one we're standing next to here is an XLT with the big battery pack, which is a trim that doesn't really make much sense in my opinion, but I'll get more into that whenever I discuss the pricing later in this video. But so this is a lower trim. This is actually the second from the lowest base Pro trim that you can get, and it still looks really nice though, I think. And it's great that the XLT does give you the light bar up front there, which you do not get on the lowest Pro version. Then coming down to the sides, you also have these nice 20-inch wheels whenever you upgrade to the big battery pack as well, and they're cool with their Aero inspired design. Another hint that you're looking at a Lightning version is you have the charge port here on the front fender. And then going out to the back, that's the other area where you'll see it's a little different than a regular F-150 with unique taillights there. And this XLT trim does not have the light bar across the rear there, but you will get that on higher trims. The XLTs with the big battery also give you the power tailgate, which is a nice touch to have. And you also get the Pro Power on board there with the 9.6 kilowatts there in the truck bed to give you, all kinds of various functionality as far as, whatever you want to plug in there. And there's more plugs in the front, which is the other big unique thing here for the Lightning version that's really nice to have, especially in a truck where, usually grocery runs require using the back seat. Not so here in the Lightning. There's even grocery bag hooks that keep stuff from rolling around. Plus, there's even more space under the front floor for your charging cable or other things. My only complaint is that there's no button in there to close it, requiring you to either use the key fob or a button in the interior. And so all around here, I think it's just a nice look. Again, I think it's really smart that they chose to kind of have this blend in and, look pretty similar to a regular F-150. It's nothing crazy looking. It's for those who want to fly under the radar a little bit, but it still looks very nice and has this understated futuristic look to it. And so I think they did a really good job here on the styling on the F-150 Lightning. The interior of the F-150 Lightning, especially here in the XLT trim, is basically the same as an XLT trim of a regular gas F-150. It's the same cloth seats, it's all the same trim, everything, aside from the fact that you get the digital gauge cluster, which you can't get in an XLT version of the gas F-150. So that's the one big upgrade here, but otherwise it's the same exact interior. And so that's why, like I will mention later in the pricing segment, this interior is still a tough sell even at like $60,000 for a gas F-150 to have cloth seats in a $60,000 truck. But this one here is $84,000. And so at $84,000, the cloth seats are really a tough pill to swallow here, and so again, I'll talk more about the pricing later in this video as far as, what I think is the better version of the Lightning to get. But just as it is, if you're curious about what an XLT interior is like on this refreshed F-150s, I did do a review on the V8 gas-powered version just last year, so I'll link that video above. You can go watch that if you want to hear all the details on an XLT F-150 interior. Overall, though, it still is very high-tech. You have this nice big 12-inch screen along with the digital gauges, and so, it feels thoroughly modern. It's just the materials and stuff obviously don't feel quite up to that price point. But yeah, stay tuned for the pricing stuff later in this video, and we'll try and make sense of it then. But anyway, let's start up and go for a drive. So the F-150 Lightnings here have the same key as any other F-150, so you just leave the key in your pocket though. This one does have intelligent access with the XLT when you go for the big battery pack as well. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the power button here, and it turns right on. All right, so setting off here in the Lightning. So if you've ever driven any other F-150 of this generation before, you'll feel right at home because, obviously the same view, same visibility, and everything else also feels very similar. Like the steering feels the same as any other F-150. And also, thankfully, even though this is an electric vehicle, the throttle and the braking response also feel very similar to a regular F-150. But I'm going to go ahead into the drive modes here, and we're going to turn onto a back road and see how the acceleration does. So it says I have 85% power available because the battery's kind of low. So this won't be the full crazy acceleration, but close enough. And here we go. All right. Still plants you in the back of your seat and gets up to speed really, really well. Plenty of power here still. even though it locked me out of the last 15% there. Which is interesting because I actually only have about like 45 or so % battery left, so it's not like it's super low. But anyway, very, very quick. So this thing will do a 4-second 0 to 60 time here for these versions with the big battery. So the big battery gives you 580 horsepower, and if you have the small battery pack, it's 452 horsepower. But either way, you get 775 pound-feet of torque. So I really don't think that even with a small battery, you'd have a much slower 0 to 60 than that. And the 4-second 0 to 60 is very believable. I mean, it feels very punchy and very fast, and it's very impressive considering this thing weighs about 1,300 pounds heavier than a regular F-150, and yet it still hauls all that weight up to very quick speeds very, very immediately, and it's quite impressive, honestly, and very addicting as well, especially if you're someone who's new to electric vehicles. The way it plants you in your seat, and the immediate response is something that is unmatched even in the V8 versions of the F-150s here, or even the Raptors and stuff. I mean, this still feels so much faster than even those. Now, as far as the battery packs go, you can get either a 98 kilowatt hour battery, that's the small one, and then this one has the 131 kilowatt hour big battery pack upgrade. And so, I mean, that's a lot of batteries, but as far as the range goes, it's pretty much average for what you get on other electric vehicles these days. So the small battery pack will give you 230 miles of range, and then you get 320 miles of range, again in ideal conditions, with that big battery pack. And whenever it comes time to charge that battery pack, it'll charge at a rate of 155 kilowatts, which is, again, very average, but whenever you look at like the Rivians and even the GM trucks, the Hummer EV and Silverado EV and Sierra EV that are coming, those are all going to charge faster than this. So that is one thing to note. But it still is a pretty decent amount of a charge rate, and it looks like it actually does charge even a little bit faster than other Ford products like the Mach-E, where that kind of slows down the charge rates pretty quickly after you get out of the low percentages. Whereas with this, it seems like this does keep you into those high charge rates, even higher up in the battery pack level there. So that's nice. So it should give you some pretty impressive recharge times nonetheless, at least here for 2022, 2023 kind of stuff. But otherwise here, so whenever you do decide to stomp on this thing and use that power, you're going to want to make sure that you're judicial about when you apply it, because the brakes here are only 0.2 inch larger for the rotor compared to a regular F-150. And considering this thing weighs 1,300 pounds heavier, this one coming in around 6,855 pounds, I just feel like it should have probably gotten a little bit more of a brake upgrade, especially considering they're claiming this can tow 10,000 pounds. And yet, with 1,300 pounds of extra weight, you're just lugging around with the batteries to have a very, very minor brake upgrade there. Just, I wish there was a little bit more in the braking department. But I mean, as far as the actual feel, I mean, it grabs right towards the top of the pedal, feels very grabby, and the braking distances are totally acceptable, and not nearly as long as like the Hummer EV, which is very slow braking vehicle. But it just would have been nice to see a little bit more there as far as the brakes go. But that's really my only complaint as far as the driving dynamics go, because otherwise it's a nice smooth ride here. So you do have the independent rear suspension here on the Lightnings, and that is one key difference, that only the Lightning has the independent rear suspension. None of the other F-150s do, but it does keep the ride nice and smooth here with the independent rear suspension. I think it is certainly a little bit more polished than what you get on a regular gas F-150, but you still have the shuttering of the body on frame kind of thing. It's not going to feel like it's unibody or anything. It's not that smooth, and I still think that even the gas Ram feels a little smoother with its air suspension and stuff, which this doesn't have any of that trickery going on here. But on this road that generates a lot of road noise, we also don't hear too much. It's pretty refined, but we're cutting up some corners here that I always take, and let's see how this thing handles. Again, almost 7,000 pounds, so I'm certainly not going to push it. But having the battery there gives you a lower center of gravity, and it does feel really nice. Another thing I really like about the Lightning is that you do have a little bit of regen whenever you let off the gas, and so it almost feels like a manual transmission vehicle the way whenever you drive it, you kind of have a little bit of resistance there and a little bit of a slowdown. But you do also have the option of a one-pedal drive mode if you want to, not even be bothered with the brake pedal. It will do like a full-blown, all the way to a stop, one-pedal drive mode here in these, which is great that you have that, and it works pretty well. It's one of the easier ones to get used to. I've also had that in the Mach-E that I currently own, and it's a really well done one pedal thing. But anyway, getting back to the handling here, you know, I mean, it handles better than you might be expecting, honestly. It certainly isn't sporty, and it's not something you still want to, you know, push or be racing around a back road on. But, you know, I think that it still handles itself really nicely. And I do have to say that, you know, the body roll is pretty well contained. You know, it doesn't feel sloppy or anything. The steering feels fairly precise for a truck. You know, and so I think as far as, you know, as long as your expectations are realistic here, I think this actually handles very well. And, you know, although it is, since I just was in the Hummer EV, I know that's not really a direct competitor to this, but that thing with the four-wheel steering was really cool. And you will see four-wheel steer in the other GM trucks coming here as well, the Silverado and the Sierra. And so, you know, that will be one cool thing that I think will give those an edge in the handling department. And that also will help, you know, when you're parking in close quarters and things like that. So it would be nice to see Ford add a four-wheel steer system down the road for the Lightning. But again, keeping this simple and, you know, very much the same as any other F-150, I think will certainly, you know, help to keep the costs down, and you know, just makes it again very approachable and very easy to, you know, transition from a gas F-150 because it is so similar here. And so, you know, for the average person that just wants a nice, comfortable commuter, you know, this will do that very, very well. And honestly, you know, aside from the lack of engine noise, it's going to feel very similar to driving any other F-150. And now we're out on the highway here in the Lightning, and still nice and quiet, nice and smooth, and just honestly very refined, you know, even for a pickup truck here out on the highway. It's just really nice. I do also have the Blue Cruise hands-on system on. I believe they still call it Blue Cruise, even though it's not the Blue Cruise hands-free system, which is available on higher trims of the Lightning. But here for the XLT, you don't get that. But I do have here the adaptive cruise control system, which is something you do get whenever you upgrade to the big battery pack. That adds on the extra package that gives you the adaptive cruise control, as well as a few other things. And so, you know, the adaptive cruise system works great though. I mean, it still does have lane keeping assist, so it will give you some steering assist. You just have to make sure you have your hands on the wheel. But it is still, you know, helping me with the steering here a little bit, and certainly will take some fatigue out of long highway drives to have it doing some of those micro corrections for you. And it really is. I mean, like going around this, you know, gentle curve here now, I mean, it's doing this steering. I'm just hovering my hands, you know, and it also wants to make sure every once in a while that you do actually have your hands on the wheel, so it'll check for that. But it's really doing this, you know, most of the way all on its own. And so it's very, very impressive, you know, for a hands-on system, just how much it really does help you, and also how reliable it is too. It's, you know, a pretty reliable system. It hasn't, you know, sketched me out or anything here, because I've already been driving this vehicle for a week, and it's been doing a really good job so far. Also, even on this XLT trim, you have like blind spot monitoring, automatic emergency braking, all the other usual safety tech here as well. So it's great that you get all that stuff here, even in these lower trims of the Lightning. And so, yeah, overall, just a really nice highway cruiser as well. But yes, I've been driving the Lightning here for a week now already, and you know, it just blends into the background nicely. There's really no other complaints or observations that I have here from my week. It feels just very much like an electric F-150 would and should feel like. And so I think that there's honestly a beauty to the fact that it is so predictable and just so straightforward, and, you know, there aren't any surprises or any weird quirks. It just does what you're expecting it to do, how you are expecting it to do it. And so I think they did a really great job here with this. The last couple of things, though, I do want to mention before I go are the pricing and the efficiency numbers here of the Lightning. So first off, efficiency. Now, I've been driving this vehicle 130 miles here, and my efficiency has been 2 miles per kilowatt hour. And, you know, for a truck that still doesn't have fantastic aerodynamics, I mean, that's okay. You know, it's certainly better than like the Hummer EV. I was getting like 1.5 in that. But compared to, like, for example, the Mach-E that we have at home, that'll easily get over 3 miles per kilowatt hour without even trying. So, you know, obviously the efficiency is not going to be great. It's a truck. That's, you know, been the case for trucks regardless of what's powered them for, you know, decades and decades. So not a big deal there, but just wanted to point out I'm getting 2 miles per kilowatt hour for those that are curious. And the last thing to mention here is the pricing and how it compares to its competitors. So one of the big things about the Lightning is that it came out before basically all of its competition, and so that means that you're going to have, you know, an advantage here, because right now, you know, there's really not a whole lot to pick from aside from basically the Rivian, and, you know, one or two other small things like the Hummer EV, which again is just much more expensive. But as far as the Lightning goes here, now these start for the base Pro trim at about $55,000. But if you do want a Pro, unfortunately, you only can get that with the small battery pack unless you are a commercial customer. If you're someone someone who's, you know, buying one for a fleet purpose, then you can get the big battery with the Pro. But otherwise, for normal consumers, you're going to have to, you know, just settle for the small battery pack with that. But at that price point, 55 grand, I think it still is a really solid value. These did debut at a much lower price, and they've had, you know, price increases ever since. And the pricing I am covering is for a 2023, even though what I'm filming is a 2022. They're all sold out already, and so, you know, anyone that's ordering is going to get at least a 2023, if not later. So I'm going to talk about 2023 pricing, because this vehicle, for example, you know, its window sticker is about $75,000, but after all the price increases here now, you know, about a year later, this thing is now, for a comparable 2023, is going to cost you $84,000 for one spec just like this. So, you know, big price jump. So I'm going to talk about that new pricing instead. So 55 grand for the Pro, I think is a great value. You get a vehicle that, you know, is going to be much nicer and much faster, more high tech than even a $55,000 regular F-150, honestly. And then XLT, it's also a pretty good value. Again, if you stick to that small battery pack, they start right around about $62,000, which is actually about equal to the pricing of a regular gas XLT. And so, you know, that's also pretty solid as far as, you know, value stuff goes to have. Obviously, you have less range than a gas F-150, and you have, you know, the inconvenience of having to charge them and stuff. But if you're going into this because you're excited about the electric thing, in the small battery pack, 230 miles should be plenty, you know, considering most people's average commute is well under that every single day. And, you know, aside from, you know, if you're doing road trips, you know, 230 miles will always be sufficient for most people as long as they can charge every night. So I think it's really impressive that they priced it at the same exact price point as a gas XLT. The problem is whenever you get up to the big battery pack, when you do that, the value thing goes out the window for the XLT trim here, because the battery pack is $12,500 extra on an XLT, and it also forces you into the 312A package, which is also another $9,000 on top of that. And the $9,000, I don't know if it goes very far, because it gives you like a heated steering wheel, 20-inch wheels, adaptive cruise, which could be a little pricey, and then you get like intelligent access. You do get the Pro Power on board with a higher rating of the 9.6 kilowatts for that. But that's basically, there's a few other small little things, but you know, I don't know, it just does not feel like it's worth $9,000 for that. But anyway, the moral of the story here is it's $21,500 basically extra if you want the big battery on an XLT. So, you know, that would be one thing if it was just like, okay, well, that's the same upcharge for every trim of the Lightning, and so it is what it is. But that's not the case, because for about $4,000 extra, you can just go up to a Lariat trim with the big battery pack, and that'll give you the big screen from the Mach-E. That's, you know, the big vertical tablet. You also will have leather seats. You're going to have a bunch of other nice upgrades there in the Lariat trim that you don't get here with the XLT. And, you know, honestly, to have the much nicer truck for whenever you're talking about $80,000 trucks anyway, you know, to go from an $84,000 truck to like an $87,500 truck, you know, it's basically negligible for the price difference there. So honestly, that's the way to go, I think. I don't think that getting the XLT with a big battery makes any sense at all. And I'm talking about the value here because I know that, yes, they have over 200,000 of these things reserved, and they're sold out for several years. So, you know, the whole value thing might be, you know, a dumb thing to even mention. But, you know, if you're looking at these lower trims, then I'm assuming that, you know, you aren't just a blank check buyer that can just buy one of the top Platinums for $98,000. If you are, you know, then just go for one of those. That's definitely going to be the most luxurious, with its Nirvana leather seats and the massage seats and ventilated seats. It's got a Bang & Olufsen stereo that's great, and all kinds of other nice upgrades. But if you're, you know, you're going for something that isn't that loaded up trim, you know, I would just say skip the XLT. Either go for a Pro if you really want something basic and live with the small battery pack, which I think is not hard to live with, but stick to that, or just, you know, go up to a Lariat. I think the XLT is totally worth just skipping. Now, you do get the light bar in the front and stuff, and the 360 camera, and you know, a couple other little improvements. So, you know, going up, it's about $6,000 to go from the Pro to the XLT with a small battery. So, you know, a little bit of a price jump, not the best value, but still not bad. It's just, again, adding on this big battery pack is just what kills the value proposition here in the XLT. And so just keep that in mind. But otherwise, you know, I think that, you know, it comes in a little bit under where it sounds like some of the others are going to be. You know, don't have final pricing for some of the others. Anyway, you know, it's not cheap, but I think, you know, again, if you are okay with the small battery pack, then, you know, it's basically the same price as a gas F-150. And so, you know, it's great that there really is no price penalty for those buyers. And so, you know, it's just a great option. You're going to have a vehicle that's way faster, plus you have the better tech with the digital gauges and stuff here than you're going to get in a lower trim F-150. And it's just a really cool experience here in these. And yeah, I'm just very impressed with the Lightning. And I'm almost just more impressed by just how familiar it feels, you know, for being this, you know, the first generation of an electric pickup truck from Ford. It's really impressive, you know, just how polished and predictable that honestly the Lightning feels. But anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the F-150 Lightning. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Ford for providing me here with this F-150 Lightning to review for you guys today. Yeah, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.